president is very busy prosecuting his enemies. His goon squad today indicted his own former national security advisor, John Bolton. He is just brazenly lying about the economy and grocery prices. But he did have a chat with Vlad Putin today, which we know because...
I mean, he's an invasive species.
For California.
For the country. For the world. He's a wrecking ball, not just the symbolism and substance of the East Wing. He's wrecking alliances, truth, trust, tradition.
Trump thought he could stroll into 2025 unbothered. Adorable. Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel's sharpening jokes like a chef on espresso, and Gavin Newsom's shaking his head so hard it's basically cardio. The chaos is bubbling, egos are deflating, and somehow Trump's still acting like it's all part of his master plan. What's coming isn't politics as usual. It's a full-blown meltdown spectacular. Grab your popcorn and don't blink because the drama's about to hit a whole new level of unhinged...
Which we know because while he was on the phone with Putin, he posted, "I am speaking to President Putin now." The conversation is ongoing, a lengthy one, and I will report the contents, as will President Putin at its conclusion. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Never mind our attention to this matter. How about you paying attention to this matter? Why are you posting about a phone call?
It is about the United States of America. He doesn't believe in that. He believes in the red states. He's going after, it's a war. He's a wartime president. He's the head of a war party. War on women, war on voting rights, war on Hispanics, a war on this state.
Here we go again. Trump, the unstoppable headline magnet we just can't escape, is back in the spotlight. Just when it seemed the circus had finally left town, Jimmy Kimmel swoops in with razor-sharp jokes, and Gavin Newsom joins the chaos with his signature smirk. Politics or performance? Hard to tell anymore.
Well, when he needs a good laugh, Putin schedules a phone call with Trump, and Putin is Bart Simpson and Trump is his Mo. Trump announced that he is going to meet with Putin in Budapest at a date to be determined because only he can end a war.
I don't think any president's ever ended a war, frankly. One war, I did 8 of them, Maria, right? And but I don't know, did Bush ever end? Do you think Biden ended a war? Biden started wars because he was stupid. But do you think Biden ended any wars? No, I don't know of anybody that ended wars. I ended 8 of them.
No president, nobody has ever ended a war other than him. All the other wars ended mysteriously by themselves.
The result? A chaotic roast, like fireworks exploding in a hurricane, with Trump at the eye of the storm, flailing, shouting, unsure whether he's starring in a comedy roast, a campaign disaster, or the strangest political circus ever televised.
I mean, this is serious. This guy's trying to get a Nobel Peace Prize. That's what he's going to try to say tomorrow in Alaska, that he's the big guy trying to find peace, really? When he's bringing war to the American people? He put military in the streets, not of Baghdad, and he didn't send the military in his first administration anywhere in the world. He sent the United States Marines into the United States of America in one of the bluest cities in this country, in Los Angeles, one of the great cities, American cities. That's what Donald Trump did. He is a wartime.
Jimmy Kimmel kicked things off, because who better to start than the man who can make absurdity look like an art form? He didn't hold back for a second. It was like watching him fire up a chainsaw and slice through Trump's mountain of fake gold bricks, shredding the illusion one ridiculous boast at a time.
Trump gets a visit from Zelensky at the White House. They're going to see if they can figure out this thing with Bad Bunny, and then after that, we'll work on Ukraine. And most importantly, he still has his eye on the ballroom. Trump really wants a ballroom in the White House. Said the reason we don't have one already is because we've never had a real estate person as president, but now we have Blob Vila running the show, and we're gonna have one. Last night, Trump hosted a fundraising dinner for his big, beautiful $200 million wedding venue. The fact that the government is shut down because Republicans don't want to spend money on health care makes no difference to him, I guess. All the top people from Google, Apple, Amazon, you name it, lined up to eat beef stroganoff and kiss his ass.
The target wasn't just Trump's policies or his endless stream of tweets, though. Let's be honest, those alone could fuel an entire Netflix anthology. No, Jimmy Kimmel went after the full Trump persona, the hair that defies logic, the exaggerated hand gestures, the grandiose self-introductions that feel less presidential and more like a failed superhero audition. Except this time, the villain stole the script. Every segment Jimmy unleashed was a masterclass in controlled chaos. It wasn't just funny. It was that rare kind of humor that makes you laugh and wince at the same time, because deep down, you know it's painfully true. But Kimmel didn't settle for surface-level jabs. He went full surgeon mode, dissecting the absurdity layer by layer, peeling back each contradiction like an onion made entirely of dollar bills, insecurity and ego. You could almost see the cartoon, thought bubbles forming over Trump's head, equal parts confusion and disbelief as if he'd just been told his stable. Genius Moment had officially become late-night comedy canon. Every punchline hit with surgical precision. Yet this wasn't a drive-by roast. It was a calculated, all-out comedic assault. By the time the laughter subsided, viewers realized Kimmel hadn't just roasted Trump. He'd dismantled him, and we loved every second of it. Nat
Could be snatched off the streets without a warrant, based only on suspicion or skin color. Then none of us are safe. Authoritarian regimes begin by targeting people who are least able to defend themselves, but they do not stop there. This brazen abuse of power by a sitting president inflamed a combustible situation, putting our people, our officers, and even our National Guard at risk. Take time, reflect on this perilous moment. A president who wants to be bound by no law or contract.
Then, as if the internet hadn't already maxed out on collective gasps, Gavin Newsom stepped into the arena, armed with political precision, righteous disdain, and the kind of composure that says, "I've been waiting for this." Subtlety has never been Newsom's style, and he didn't even pretend otherwise. He approached Trump like a technician dismantling a broken robot, examining every illogical circuit and malfunctioning part. There's a rare satisfaction in watching someone who actually understands systems, policies, and consequences methodically expose a man whose relationship with reality is, at best, interpretive. Newsom's takedown was surgical and merciless, like watching a skilled surgeon operate on a blow-up doll that insists it's human. It was painful, hilarious, and weirdly mesmerizing all at once, piece by piece. He stripped away layers of hypocrisy, self-delusion, and empty spectacle until all that remained was a confused swirl of ego and denial, a political existential crisis in real time. The beauty was in the contrast. Jimmy Kimmel, the entertainer, had wielded comedy like a flamethrower. Newsom, the governor, wielded scrutiny like a scalpel. Different weapons, same target. Together, they cornered Trump in a perfect storm of mockery and truth. He became both the punchline and the lesson, a former president turned reality TV relic, floundering in a desert of his own making while the world watched half in horror, half in delight.
Donald Trump's inner circle is becoming increasingly fearful of the impact what he sees on Fox News is having on his decision-making. Trump officials became concerned when Trump asked if he could get a reverse mortgage on the White House in one of those Terry Bradshaw walk-in tubs. A few weeks ago, there were reports that the reason Trump wanted to send the National Guard into Portland is because he saw Fox footage of unrest from 2020, and he thought it was happening in real time, and he still might think that.
One couldn't help but marvel at the symmetry, humor and intellect colliding to form a perfect storm of humiliation. Jimmy Kimmel's strategy thrived on exaggeration, absurdity, and spectacle. He magnified Trump's signature quirks, the sweeping gestures, the grandiose declarations that sounded ripped from a fantasy novel, and the uncanny ability to twist any scenario into a self-serving narrative. Kimmel dissected these absurdities with surgical precision, amplifying them just enough to make the audience roar with laughter, but never so far that the truth beneath the humor was lost. It was a balancing act, like walking a tightrope made of spaghetti over a pit of lava, and Jimmy executed it flawlessly. The world watched, captivated, as Trump's bravado was transmuted into comedic gold, a living reminder of why satire exists. To keep the ridiculous in check while acknowledging that sometimes the ridiculous wields real power. Meanwhile, Gavin Newsom wasn't chasing spectacle, he was crafting exposure. His approach was calculated, measured, almost academic. He unraveled Trump's narratives thread by thread, exposing contradictions, hollow promises, and the bizarre internal logic masquerading as leadership. Watching him work was like watching a mechanic dismantle a machine, only to reveal that half the gears were made of bubble gum and glitter. Every move was intentional, every critique precise. A masterclass in dismantling theatrics with substance.
His weakness masquerading as strength. He's increasingly acting deranged, unhinged. I mean, you saw that 39-minute curious exhibit of just narcissism at another level, where people had to sort of stare at dear leader as he was dancing or zoning out. I mean, this is a profound and remarkable moment, and I think he's not meeting that moment. I think he's increasingly concerned about his own candidacy himself, and he's going back to these safe places. I think it was a seventh or eighth grader that called me new scum. Now it's a 78-year-old. Maybe you could describe him all.
Newsom's approach was the kind that first makes your jaw drop in disbelief, then curl into a reluctant, almost admiring smile. It's rare to see someone wield authority with such precision and composure in a world overflowing with bluster and noise. The synergy between Jimmy's chaos and Newsom's scrutiny, though entirely unplanned, felt almost poetic. Trump, predictably, didn't handle either very well. His reactions were pure Trump, confused, defensive, and spectacularly performative, unintentionally fueling the very fire he was desperate to extinguish. It became a perfect feedback loop of absurdity, comedy and chaos feeding each other in real time. The spectacle was mesmerizing. It reminded everyone that sometimes the best comedy writes itself, and sometimes the sharpest exposure comes not from accusations, but from simply holding up a mirror and letting the contradictions speak louder than any speech ever could. Yet beneath the laughter and disbelief, there was purpose. Jimmy's performance reminded audiences why public figures like Trump exist as both fascination and cautionary tale, living proof of what happens when ego outpaces accountability. Newsom, meanwhile, reminded viewers that scrutiny still matters, even when aimed at someone who has long seemed untouchable, impervious to critique. And of course, Trump's reactions, half outrage, half confusion, added another delicious layer. There's an undeniable thrill in watching a man who thrives on control suddenly flounder when the spotlight turns against him.
The governor of Oregon informed them there was no security threat in her state. He said, well, wait a minute, am I watching things on television that are different from what's happening? Yes, dum-dum, you are. You're on a 5-year delay from the rest of us. But, I mean, it's no joke. And Trump's inner circle knows just how dangerous the incessant misinformation from Fox News can be because they all worked there 10 months ago. It is frightening to know that the President of the United States is being briefed on world events by the same source as everyone at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport.
Every tweet, every statement, every frantic attempt by Trump to regain control only amplified the absurdity. It was like watching someone try to douse a forest fire with a water pistol while the blaze was fueled entirely by their own previous actions. The spectacle wasn't just the attacks, it was his reactions, each one more bewildering than the last. Meanwhile, the audience reveled in it. The internet exploded. Clips of Jimmy Kimmel's wildest moments went viral, while Newsom's razor-sharp critiques were dissected, analyzed, and celebrated across platforms. Memes sprouted like weeds in a long-forgotten garden, perfectly capturing the chaos, comedy, and utter carnage of the evening. People couldn't decide what was more entertaining, the humor, the exposure, or the sheer disbelief that someone could maintain public attention amid such theatrical destruction. That's when it crystallized. Trump, whether he liked it or not, had become a living lesson in spectacle versus substance, a real-time tutorial in how absurdity and reality collide with both precision and pandemonium. What made it even more remarkable was how both Kimmel and Newsom kept their attacks fresh. Jimmy's humor wasn't a string of recycled zingers. It was precise, tailored, and incisive, perfectly reflecting the audacity of his subject. Newsom's criticism wasn't empty political rhetoric. It was rooted in reality, exposing contradictions and failures with surgical accuracy, forcing even casual observers to reconsider everything they thought they knew about Trump. The combination of chaos and scrutiny created a perfect storm, leaving audiences simultaneously laughing, horrified, and oddly enlightened.
The President of the United States did something unprecedented, and he picked up the phone and he called the governor of Texas and he says, I need 5 seats. And this unprecedented, never has the President of the United States ever made a call and told a sitting governor that you need to redistrict to get me 5 seats because I'm quote unquote entitled to them for exactly the reason you just said. Because he knows he's losing. He knows he's unpopular in every single key category, and he's going to lose the midterm elections. So the only way...
It was all about clarity. Jimmy Kimmel highlighted how ludicrous certain behaviors looked when stripped of context, while Gavin Newsom exposed how problematic decisions became under scrutiny. Together, they created a perfect storm of humor, insight, and exposure where entertainment and analysis collided, leaving the audience simultaneously entertained, informed, and slightly horrified. Remarkably, they achieved this without coordination, yet the combined impact was undeniable. Trump, meanwhile, continued playing the perplexed protagonist in a story he didn't write, flailing, gesturing, and desperately trying to reclaim the spotlight, only to fuel even more comedy and critique. Discussions erupted in comment sections, debates flared on forums, and a torrent of content went viral, some celebratory, some incredulous, all impossible to ignore. Jimmy's humor became shorthand for public ridicule, while Newsom's incisive critiques served as reference points for accountability. The dual assault evolved into cultural currency, endlessly shared, remixed, and amplified across the digital landscape, turning Trump into both a spectacle and a lesson in how absurdity and reality collide in real time.
He had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent. He's an incompetent governor. Look at the job he's doing in California. He's destroying one of our great states. And if I didn't get involved, if we didn't bring the Guard in, and we would bring more in if we needed it, because we have to make sure there's going to be law and order. I think his primary crime is running for governor because he's done such a bad job.
And just when it seemed the spectacle had reached its peak, the ripple effects hit harder than a Twitter feud in a hurricane. Memes multiplied like rabbits on caffeine, each trying to capture the perfect mix of Trump's bewilderment and the artistry behind Jimmy Kimmel and Gavin Newsom's separate assaults. Every GIF, clip, and exaggerated reaction became a mini ecosystem of its own, reinforcing the narrative that Trump was no longer merely a political figure. He had become a living, breathing canvas for both comedy and critique. One man's hubris had inadvertently fueled the creativity of an entire internet. Meanwhile, Trump oscillated predictably between indignation and confusion, like someone trying to navigate a funhouse maze while the mirrors kept shifting. The contrast between him and his two challengers couldn't have been starker. Jimmy, the chaos bringer, wielded humor like a weapon, transforming absurdity into entertainment gold. Newsom, the precision operator, showcased how accountability can slice through even the thickest veils of spectacle. Both left the room with reputations intact, if not elevated, while Trump remained trapped at the center of a whirlwind he could neither predict nor control, providing endless material for the ages. In the end, the saga wasn't just about laughs or political critique. It was a perfect collision of spectacle, insight, and humor, leaving the world simultaneously entertained, exasperated, and fascinated. Trump, as always, brought the material, while Kimmel and Newsom turned it into a show the internet couldn't stop sharing, dissecting, or marveling at.